Why China can't stop producing. No matter how perfectly you do something, sometimes that very thing can become your biggest problem. I know it sounds strange, but China's story is exactly that kind of story. Today, if you look around, you'll see the same words written on many of the products you use. Made in China. Phones, computers, toys, clothes, household items. It's almost as if a piece of China exists in every corner of the world. And that's not a coincidence. Because over the last 40 years, China has achieved one of the greatest economic transformations in human history. Millions of people escaped poverty. Small towns turned into massive metropolitan cities. Factories operated around the clock. Ports moved goods day and night. Slowly, China became the center of global manufacturing. From the outside, everything looked perfect. More production, more exports, more growth, more money. But history has shown us the same lesson over and over again. Sometimes the greatest danger is not failure. Sometimes the greatest danger is success. Because when a system becomes addicted to growth, it can forget how to slow down. And that is exactly where China stands today. This video is not just about China's economic problems. It's about how growth can sometimes turn into an addiction. Why can a country struggle even when it seems to be doing everything right? Why can an economy become trapped despite being the manufacturing giant of the world? And most importantly, if a system is constantly running, is it actually moving forward? Or is it simply running in circles? To answer those questions, we need to go back to 1978. Because that's where everything began. Back then, China was not the China we know today. Most of the country was still poor. People in rural areas lived under difficult conditions. China's influence on the global economy was relatively limited. Few people could have imagined that the world's largest manufacturing powerhouse would emerge from there just a few decades later. Then Deng Xiaoping stepped onto the stage, and he made a decision that would change the country's destiny. He introduced a simple idea, but for that time it was incredibly radical. Getting rich is not a bad thing. Today, that statement may sound ordinary, but for China at the time, it was revolutionary. For years, a very different mindset had dominated the country. Now, people were being encouraged to work, produce, build businesses, and grow. That shift unleashed an incredible amount of energy. Factories began appearing everywhere. Investors poured into the country. Foreign companies saw a massive opportunity. Because China possessed one of the most valuable resources in the world, human labor. Not only did it have a huge population, but those people were ready to work. And labor costs were significantly lower than in Western countries. As a result, companies from around the world gradually moved their production to China. What started as a small experiment quickly became a massive transformation. Shenzhen became one of the most striking examples. Once a modest fishing village, Shenzhen transformed into a giant technology hub, with millions of residents within just a few decades. Skyscrapers rose into the sky. Factories opened one after another. Roads were built. And the city seemed to change almost overnight. This success story spread throughout China. Every city wanted to become the next Shenzhen. Every region wanted to attract more investment. Local governments competed fiercely for factories. They offered cheaper land. They lowered taxes. They built new industrial zones. And for a while, the system worked perfectly. The economy was growing. People were becoming wealthier. Companies were making money. The world was getting access to cheaper products. Everyone seemed happy. But right at that moment, an invisible problem began to emerge. Because everyone was chasing the same goal, to be cheaper, to produce more cheaply than competitors, to produce faster than competitors, to produce more than competitors. And as history has shown many times before, competition slowly began to replace progress. The goal was no longer to become better. The goal was simply to become cheaper, and that is where the foundation of China's current story was built. If you enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe.